Good morning, everyone. Hi, how are you all? I hope you all are fine at your places. Since you all know that we are doing chapter number second, and today we're going to continue the same chapter. Okay, so as usual, I'm going to share my screen with all of you, and here I go. And I hope my screen is visible on your screen as well. So here I go.
Yes.
So we were doing this chapter number two. Okay. So, okay. Let me open this PPT as well. Yes, this is the PPT. Okay. So we are doing this chapter, terms, concepts, and their uses or their use in sociology. Okay. So we are doing this chapter. Okay. So initially we started with the introduction, uh, and in the introduction we discussed that how society functions, and then we moved on to understand that how a social group is formulated and how social group is different from gathering of people, and simply gathering of people or aggregates of people. Actually, it is not considered as social group. There are certain characteristics of social group that we discussed, and after that we moved on to understand we moved on to understand the primary groups and then secondary groups. Okay. Okay, so this is what I was talking about. Okay, so we discussed the social groups, the characteristics of social group. Here are the characteristics. I discussed all the characteristics with you, and then we moved on to understand types of groups. Now, what are these types, or what these types actually tell us? These types are actually terminologies, the terms that we use in sociology, and there are certain concepts that are related to these groups. We're going to understand that as well. Okay, so we understood types of group. Initially we started with primary groups and secondary groups, and here is the okay. So social groups, as you can see on your screen, these are social groups, and we had to discuss these types of social groups. Primary and secondary group, we have already discussed this, and then community and society, it's or association. So community is always considered as primary groups, and community or association always secondary group. And today we're going to understand in groups and out groups, and then we're going to understand reference groups, and then we're going to understand peer groups, right? So after discussing, our types of groups will be over, and these are actually the terms that we use in this particular subject. Then we're going to understand the social stratification. That is actually a concept that we understand under it. Okay, so these are the primary groups, right? Small groups and face-to-face association, cooperation, sense of belongingness, family, village groups, friends, are all the examples of primary group. And then there are secondary groups. They are large in size, and formal and informal in-person relationships are there. And as I've already told you in the last class, that primary groups are person oriented, on the other hand secondary groups are goal oriented, right? So when secondary groups are formed, they are always focused more on goals, right? And when primary group is formed, they are more personal. There is no informal relationship that actually exists in the primary group, so it is more of a person oriented, right? So this is also a kind of thing through which you can understand what are primary and secondary groups. Okay, so this is also a very useful slide to understand your primary and secondary group. Okay, so after that, okay, now we'll move to move to the book. Okay. So primary and secondary groups. Okay. So initially groups, how they are different from simple gathering, and then primary groups and secondary groups, and then community and society or association. Okay. And today we have got in groups and out groups. Now I'm reading from your textbook. I'm using my cursor to actually show from where I'm actually reading. In groups and out groups. A sense of belongingness marks an in group. This feeling separates us or we from them and they. Now this is a very important line. Look, when we are in certain group, then we see other groups as out groups, right? So there are two groups, in groups and out groups, right? So basically in groups and out groups tells us what? They actually separates us or we. Look at that. It is written in your textbook. Us or we from them or they, right? Suppose we belong to a particular school. We can take an example, right? If you are a student of this school, JK Public School, then you are actually in group. You are actually rendering or presenting the in group. And suppose there is a group of students that belong to some other school. Suppose KC Public School, Jodamal Heritage, right? So there are other schools, right? So you're gonna consider the students of other schools as out groups, and obviously the students of this school as in groups, right? So it is actually giving rise to what? It is actually separating us or we from them or they, right? So this line actually means that the the individuals that are there in group are actually us or we, but the individuals that are there in the out groups are actually them or they, right? So this is what this line is all about. So sense of belongingness marks an in group. This feeling separate us or we from them or they, right? So children belonging to a particular school, I was actually giving you this example. Children belonging to a particular school may form an in-group against those who do not belong to the particular school. So I've already given you this example that student belonging to one school actually are forming your in-group, and the students that are belonging to some other school are actually forming your out-groups, right? So this is actually separating us or we from them or they, right? So obviously the students of other schools, how we gonna say how we gonna refer them? We're gonna say that they are those students, or we are different from them. So look at that, I'm using these words. They are the students of KC Public School, they are the students of Heritage, they are the students of Jodamal, right? So we are using they for them, and for us, what we'll use we the students of JK Public School, and they are the students of Jodamal or Heritage or KC Public School, whatever you can take. So this is how you understand in group and out group, right? Obviously example of school, right? An out group on the other hand is one to which the members of an in group do not belong. Obviously it's as simple as you can understand. अब जो in group के students होंगे, obviously they won't belong to the out group, right? क्योंकि वो in group में. So this is what actually it means. The members of an out group can face hostile reaction. Now what do you mean by hostile reaction? Hostile reaction means unfriendly reaction. Obviously if the students of other schools will come, you will not straight away become friend with them. Initially there will be kind of hostile reactions that you will give to them. You will not be straight away become friend to them. There will be kind of unfriendly reactions from you to them, and obviously they will also give you kind of hostile reaction, mean unfriendly reactions, because you both belong to different groups, in group and out group, right? I'm sure you are understanding. Migrants are often considered as an out group. Obviously migrants, suppose now suppose if people, or if group of people from different country comes to our nation India, then obviously those group of people that have actually come to our nation India, they will be considered as out groups. Now it means that migrants, they are actually migrants that have actually come to our country. Suppose a bunch of foreigners have actually come to our country, Germans, French, or people from England have actually come to our group. We will consider them migrants, and they are actually not a part of our in group, they are actually out group. So I've given you two examples in the form of school and in the form of migrants, right? I'm sure you are understanding. So this is what in group and out group is all about. Okay. So then move on to the reference group. So this is PPT. Okay, reference group. So until now, what we have discussed groups, then primary groups or secondary groups, community and society or association, 3, and then 4, this one, in group and out group. Okay, and now we're going to understand the reference group. Now what is actually reference group? Other groups who we look up to and aspire to be like, the groups whose lifestyles are emulated. Emulated means copied. Okay, to copy someone or to look like someone or to be like someone whom you actually admire or actually wanted to become something like that. So this is what emulated is all about, or known as reference group. Now I can give you a simple example. Suppose if someone is interested in sports, right? Suppose if particular person is interested in sports, right? Suppose if a particular person is interested in your, a new student has come in the meeting, it's Ria. Okay, so I'm giving you an example of reference group, right? So first I think we should actually read it. Okay, so for any group of people there are always other groups whom they look up to and aspire to be like. The groups whose lifestyles are emulated, I've already told you emulated means to copy someone, right? To copy someone, or to, I would say, to try to be like someone or something you admire, or you know that you wanted to become actually. So that's what actually become your emulated word. So the groups whose lifestyles are emulated are known as the reference group. We don't belong to the reference group. After that, we don't belong to a reference group, but we do identify ourselves with that group. Reference groups are important sources of information about culture, lifestyle, your aspiration and goal attainments. Now I can give you a simple example of an individual. Someone, suppose if there is an individual who wants to become a sports person, suppose he wants to become a cricketer, right? So obviously the cricketers or the group of cricketers will be like reference group for him. Or suppose if someone wants to become an IAS officer, or someone who wants to become doctor, someone who wants to become engineer, so for that particular person the group of doctors will be a kind of reference group, the group of engineers will be kind of reference group, the group of celebrities would be kind of, you know, reference group. I'm sure you're understanding. Kindly text me if you're understanding. Kindly text me, everyone. Reference group is that group which we want to copy, which we want to actually, you know, live like them, or we want to become like them. Kindly text me, everyone. I'm waiting for your text. Clear. Only Tavisha has texted me. What about else? Clear. Krish also clear. What about Puneet and clear, and Ayushi? Yeah, okay. So I was telling you the reference group. You know, we never belong to. Look, I've got a. Okay, understood. So we never belong to reference group. क्यों? क्योंकि we are now we are just trying. जब हम बन जाएंगे वो चीज that we aspire or that we want to become, then somebody else will treat us as reference group. Are you understanding what I'm trying to tell you? Okay, so reference group जो हम बनना चाहते हैं, anything, you know, interest, or how, you know, look at that. There is an important line that is actually written here. This is another line. We do identify ourselves with that group. Reference groups are important sources of information about culture, lifestyle, aspiration, goal attainments. Now, how reference group can be an important source of information, how reference group can be an important source of culture, lifestyle, aspiration, or goal attainment. Look, if someone wants to become an actor, right? So, kahin na kahin, that particular individual को बहुत सारा idea होगा कि what's actually going on in Bollywood. क्या हो रहा है, क्या नहीं हो रहा है, what which actor is doing what and which actor is not doing what, right? So हमें हमेशा उस फील्ड का या उस रेफरेंस ग्रुप का हमेशा पूरा आइडिया रहता है, हमें पूरी इंफॉर्मेशन रहती है उस ग्रुप की. सो कहीं ना कहीं वो एक ग्रुप हमारे लिए सोर्स बन जाता है टू कलेक्ट इंफॉर्मेशन. सपोज अगर समवन इज इंटरेस्टेड इन प्लेइंग क्रिकेट, सो उसको उस इंसान उस पर्टिकुलर इंडिविजुअल को जब हम कुछ भी चीज पूछेंगे क्रिकेट के बारे में जो एक्चुअली उसका रेफरेंस ग्रुप है, तो उसको सब पता होगा. क्यों? क्योंकि एक्चुअली ही वांट्स टू बिकम लाइक दैट. वो बनना चाहता है उस चीज को, एक्चुअली ही इज फॉलोइंग दैट. सो suppose that if that particular person is following all those things, obviously वो एक source of information बन जाता है. So that's what actually mean, that's what actually it means. Reference groups are important sources of information about culture, lifestyle. So कैसा एक culture है Bollywood में, कैसा lifestyle है actors का, celebrities का, वो और क्या मतलब what they are achieving, what they are not achieving. So हमें reference group के साथ हम हमेशा अपने आप को identify करते हैं. We do identify ourselves with that group, right? I'm sure you're understanding. So now today we have understood in groups and out groups, with the example of school and obviously with the example of the migrants that come in our nation, right? And then we have understood, now we have understood a reference group. Now moving on to the last group. I think it's the last group. Yes, peer group is the last group. Okay. So peer group, this is a very common term, peer group. I'm sure you all have, you know, a little bit of idea about peer groups. Now this is a kind of primary group usually formed between individuals who are either of similar age or who are in common professional group. Peer pressures refers to social pressure exerted by one peers on what ought to do or not. Now what do you mean by that? Now you all are attending my class, right? So you all belong to a same class, or you all belong to a same age group, right? So now you all are actually existing in the same peer group. आप सबका same peer group है, because you are sharing what? You are sharing common age. You have common age, right? Or in the similar way, professional life में, if teachers are, you know, gathered at a particular place, तो वो कहीं ना कहीं उनका peer group होगा. So professional life, your doctors, engineers, right? So professional cricketers, your celebrities, your actors, right? So same profession होना या same age group होना एक peer group को define करता है. Okay. So हमेशा, you know, there is always peer pressure. Now when we say we have got a lot of social pressure, now what do you mean by that social pressure word? Social pressure actually comes from the peer pressure, right? We always get influenced by our peer, right? It actually happens, right? You know, whatever our friends tell us, we actually tend to follow certain things. I'm doing this, you should also do this. I'm doing that, you should also do all those things, right? So we always have that peer pressure. So peer pressure refers to the social pressure exerted to one's peers on what ought to do or not, right? I'm sure you have understood this as well. So let's go on to the, okay. So we had to understand these groups, right? So now I have discussed all the groups, right? Primary group and secondary group, and then community and society or association, the in groups and out groups, reference group and peer group as well. So I have discussed all these groups with you, and I'm sure who all are attending classes with me, I'm sure you all understand that how we started. We started that individual always belong to certain groups. That groups can be your family, religion, caste, creed, you know, religion, or any kind of group can you know, be there in the society. We always belong to certain groups. And when we understand, when we actually put that notion, that idea in our mind, that individuals are always belong to a certain group, then we moved on to understand that how a simple gathering of people is not considered as social group. Social groups always have certain examples. Social groups always have certain characteristics, and we did study that as well. And after that, types of groups, all these groups I've discussed with you, right? Okay. So these are actually what, you know, the name of the chapter is terms, concepts, and their use in sociology. This is the name of the chapter, right? Yes, terms, concepts, and their use in sociology. So what we are actually doing, we are understanding the terms of sociology. What we are actually doing, we are understanding the, you know, concepts that are related to these groups. Further, we can understand other concepts as well. So when we understand any term, there is always, you know, a kind of concept that is related to a particular thing, and we all understand all these things. Okay, so this is what these all are actually terms and concepts that we use in this particular subject, right? So okay, so this is the chapter. Okay, initially, so look at that. What is how? Look at the slide which I have actually opened on your screen, right? So how society functions, right? Obviously there is lot to do with all these groups. These groups have a lot of role to play in the society, so they actually help in the functioning of society as well. So this was a kind of question that comes, okay, straight away when we start this particular chapter. And then moving on, okay, social group, we understood this, and then these all kind of social groups, right? Okay, primary group and then secondary group, and this is also kind of slide that will definitely help you to understand what is primary group and social group, and obviously reference group. Okay, so now let's move on to understand other concepts, right? Okay, let me open the, okay. So this is a very important concept. Look at that. This is extremely vital and extremely important concept for all of you to understand: social stratification. Now, before I actually read all these things, I just want to go back to the PPT, PowerPoint presentation that I've prepared, and this will definitely gonna give you a good idea of what is this social stratification is all about. Okay, so this is the PPT. Okay, so social stratification. Now, you know, it's always important, जब भी हम कोई भी concept को पढ़ते हैं, you know, it's always important that we first know that the terms that are involved in the, you know, concept usko samjhe, right? Social stratification. Now social means something that is related to society, obviously. And stratification. Ab stratification kya hota hai? Stratification means this word has actually come out of the word stratify. Now what do you mean by stratify? Stratify means to divide something, right? So when we divide a society, that actually is called as stratification or social stratification. So the division of the society, or when we divide the society, or when we stratify the society, are you understanding? When we divide or when we stratify the society, it gives rise to a term or concept, and that particular term or concept is your social stratification. Okay, I'm sure you are understanding. Okay, a system by which society categorizes, obviously you can use this word as well, categorize. Obviously society is categorized, society is divided, society is stratified, right? So there are, you know, various types of synonyms that you can use to actually show this particular thing. Okay, so social stratification, a system by which society categorizes people and ranks them in a hierarchy. Now hierarchy is a new word, right? Now what do you mean by hierarchy? Hierarchy means different levels, right? Different levels or different zones or different kind of stages, right? So there are a lot of synonyms that you can use for hierarchy, right? Different levels means hierarchy, different your stages means hierarchy, different levels means hierarchy. Okay, so I'm sure you have understood stratification. I'm sure you have understood the what do you mean by this term hierarchy. So look at that, a system by which society categorizes people and ranks them in a hierarchy. So actually who does all these social stratification? Obviously society does all these stratification, right? So when we divide society in a certain hierarchy, in certain level, or in certain stages, that is what social stratification is all about. So this is a kind of example. This is a kind of an Indian example. We are referring here Indian society. So Indian society, in Indian society, stratification is done on many bases, but this is one of the basis that we understand. So here the stratification is on which thing? Here the stratification is based on your caste, right? Caste. So look at that. So this is how society is divided. This is how society is stratified on your caste. Okay, so Brahmins, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, and Shudras. So there are 4 levels that have actually been formulated, that has actually been formed to stratify society on the basis of caste. And this stratification is very unique in India only. This actually never exists in any other nation, especially it doesn't exist in the European countries, but in our Indian nation. Okay, so this is a kind of an example to understand stratification. Look at the levels. So there are different levels, there are different stages on which this stratification has been done. Okay, so okay, stratification. Okay, now there are certain principles of stratification. You know, I'm gonna make you understand this, you know, the stratification on the base of caste further in the chapter. It is actually mentioned there in your textbook. That's the reason I'm not going deep into this particular topic, because we're going to study it very soon. Okay, okay, so there are certain principles. Principles means kind of characteristics, kind of what are the characteristics of social stratification. When we see social stratification, then we understand that stratification or social stratification is, it actually exists in every society. There is not a single society in the world that doesn't have stratification. The forms, you know, the forms or the manner of stratification can be different. How it can be different? Maybe Indian society में हम caste के base पर सोसाइटी को डिवाइड कर रहे हैं. यूरोपियन सोसाइटीज में लाइक जहाँ पे हमारी कंट्रीज हैं, पोर्टुगल, स्पेन, जर्मनी, देन फ्रांस, इटली, और इंग्लैंड, आयरलैंड, नीदरलैंड्स, एंड दे आर, यू नो, एन इन नंबर. सो मे बी उन सोसाइटीज में स्ट्रैटिफिकेशन आर बेस्ड ऑन सम अदर पैरामीटर्स, ऑन सम अदर डायमेंशन. मे बी वहाँ पर, you know, stratification is done on caste, not on caste but on class, right? So on the basis of caste here in India is stratification is done, and on the basis of class stratification is done in European societies, right? But remember that what is the first principle of social stratification? That it is actually, it is actually present in every society, right? Every society is is having one kind of stratification or the other, right? Okay, continues from one generation to another. Now what happens when a society set the stratification? It continues or it actually perpetuates from one generation to another. This is what happens. Stratification on the basis of caste is still going on in India. Maybe the impact is not that much nowadays in modern society, but definitely once the impact of caste was a lot in our Indian society, but now it has weakened a little bit, right? But it is still continuing. So continues from generation to generation, whether we do stratification on the caste, whether we do stratification on the class, right? It continues from generation to generation. Now universal but variable, this is what I'm telling you. यही मैं आपको बताने की कोशिश कर रहा हूँ कि it is universal means it is existing in every society, in every country of the world, but it is variable. Variable में कैसे? इंडिया में कास्ट के बेसिस पे और यूरोपियन कंट्रीज में या अदर फॉरेन कंट्रीज में क्लास के बेसिस में, राइट? सो इन्वॉल्व्स बिलीव्स एज वेल एज इनइक्वालिटी. नाउ रिमेंबर दैट when there is stratification in the society, that is actually having lot of beliefs. जब stratification होती है society, उसके साथ lot of beliefs भी होते हैं, क्योंकि belief system है. That's the reason stratification is going on. If nobody will believe in any kind of stratification, then it will never continue, it will never exist. But why it is existing or why it is continuing from one generation to another, it is because of the beliefs, it is because of the the belief or the trust that people have on stratification. But remember that stratification always brings inequality in the society. You got to remember this, you have to remember this, you need to remember this actually in your mind, that it really gives rise to inequality, right? So these all are the principles of social stratification that I've discussed with you. Kindly text me if you're understanding, because I just can't proceed further if you are not understanding, or unless and until if you are not understanding, I can't proceed further, right? So kindly text me. I'm waiting for your text. Understood? Yes, sir. Okay, clear. Able to understand. And Ria and Krish. Ria, clear, sir. Krish, sir, last वाला point फिर से समझा दो. Okay, so Krish is saying last वाला point फिर से समझा दो. Involves belief as well as inequality means, look, if stratification, I'm giving you the example of Indian society. Look, if Indian society is stratified, divided on the caste system, suppose, actually it is divided on this, caste system has actually divided our Indian society, है ना? तो इसमें there are certain beliefs किनके? लोगों के belief, people के belief, individuals के belief हैं. That's the reason everyone is actually know what the stratification of the on the basis of caste is all about, क्योंकि सब लोग support कर रहे हैं. No one is actually opposing. जिस दिन कोई भी stratification का oppose होना शुरू हो जाता है, उस दिन stratification उस बेसिस पे, कोई भी बेस हो सकता है, उस पे खत्म होने लगती है. बट जो चीज खत्म नहीं हो रही है, इट इज कंटिन्यूइंग और इट इज एग्जिस्टिंग इन द सोसाइटी, इसका मतलब लोगों का बिलीफ है, इसका मतलब पीपल आर ट्रस्टिंग और पीपल हैव सर्टेन बिलीव्स. सो बिलीव्स होते हैं लोगों के, इसलिए वो एक्चुअली वो स्ट्रैटिफिकेशन कंटिन्यू रहती है सोसाइटी में, क्योंकि people are believing, people are saying that okay, stratification is going on the basis of caste in India, it's fine, no problem, होनी चाहिए, क्योंकि हमारी कुछ रिलीजियस टेक्स्ट बुक्स में ऐसा लिखा है, हमारे धर्म शास्त्र में ऐसा लिखा हुआ है, मनुस्मृतिज में ऐसा लिखा गया, तो we will follow because it has certain connection with the God, or people try to give different meanings to certain things. So कहीं ना कहीं many people have believed on this stratification on the basis of caste. That's the reason it is going on. Okay, so kindly text me, Krish, if you have understood. और inequalities तो होती ही है, obviously जब society stratify होगी तो inequalities definitely होगी, किसी को उसकी advantage होगी उस stratification की और किसी को नहीं होगी, और किसको होगी और किसको नहीं होगी, obviously the people or the group of people who are belonging to upper levels, who are belonging to higher caste, they are getting a lot of advantage, उनको privileges है, they have very high social status, so they are actually in the favor of this stratification. Or obviously the people who will not have any kind of advantages out of that, they will definitely oppose it, right? This is what, so inequality is definitely there when we talk about the inequality. So Krish, kindly text me, I'm waiting for your text. Clear? Okay, so this was what stratification was all about. Now systems of stratification, I've already discussed a lot about this forms of stratification. Now, systems of stratification means forms of stratification, manner in which stratification is being done in the society. So there are different bases, there are different foundations on the which social stratification is done. Now, look at that. There are 4 points, or there are 4 systems, or there are 4 forms, or there are 4 criteria, or there are 4 parameters that are actually giving rise to stratification. Now, slavery, caste, state, class. So there are 4 points that we're going to discuss in our So I've already given you the example. Look at that. Look at my slide. I've given, look at, let me open. So this, look at that. This is the, look, I'm using my cursor. This is the stratification on the basis of what? On the basis of this one, which is there on the second number, caste. Obviously, I've already, told you the stratification on the basis of caste. Ab slavery, state or class ke bhi bare mein hum padhenge. Actually, these 4 parameters or these 4 criteria are actually mentioned in your textbook, and we will definitely understand that. Okay. And now moving on to your textbook. This is your textbook. Okay. So look at that. Now, whatever I will read, I'm sure you will definitely understand, because I've discussed a lot about social stratification. That's the reason I always come up with the PPT or something like that to help you or to facilitate your understanding. Okay, so social stratification refers to the existence of structured inequalities. I've told you that structure is maintained in the society, yeah, which is related to stratification. So social stratification refers to the existence of structured inequality. Now, when they are saying structured, what do you mean by this structure? Structure means I can show you the structure. Look at that. This is the PowerPoint presentation. So look at that. This is what, which I'm which I'm showing you, or which I'm referring, or which I'm highlighting. This is what, this is structure. This is structure of social stratification on the basis of caste. So what do you mean by this? इसकी वजह से inequalities, actually it is inequalities also going on. So it is what if I can term this particular word, this is structured inequality, right? So I'm sure now you will easily able to understand what I'm telling you. Okay, I'm just left with 6 odd minutes, and I'm going to end this class within 4 minutes or 5, because we are just left with few minutes. Okay, so social stratification refers to the existence of structured inequalities, I've already told you, between groups in society. Obviously there are different groups, Brahmin, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, Shudras, 4 groups, right? So this is what actually it means in terms of their access to material or symbolic rewards. So obviously the people who are belonging to higher caste, people who are belonging to upper caste, they have got more access to the resources. They've got more access to the, different things. Here you can understand a resource like land. Suppose, I can give you an example. About 40, 50 or 80 years back in our history, the upper caste always had a lot of land, because this is what this is means, access to different resources. So they would always have certain status or prestige, or kind of their status was high. So different kind of access are there because of the stratification. Okay, so thus stratification can most simply be defined as structural inequalities between different groups of people. You will easily understand now what I'm telling you. Often social stratification is compared to the geological layering of the rock in the earth's surface. Now we often compare social stratification with the geological layering of the rock. Now what do you mean by geological layering of the rock? We divide our earth on the basis of 3 layers. If you still remember, I'm sure you have read it somewhere in your 9th or 10th standard, or somewhere in the 8th standard, when in the geography classes, or in your geography textbook. So we have got 3 layers, right? The upper layer is crust, the middle layer is mantle, and the third layer is core. So we often compare stratification with the different layers of the earth, which is what geological layering is all about. So since we have got 3 layers, the upper one is your crust, then mantle, then core. In the similar way, we have different stratification, different levels. So that's why we often relate, or that's why we often compare stratification to the geological layering of the rocks in the earth's surface. Now society can be seen as consisting of strata. I've already told. Strata means different levels, kind of hierarchy, that I've already told you. So society can be seen as consisting of strata in a hierarchy. The hierarchy or strata, different levels, they are one and the same thing, with the more favored at the top and the less privileged near the bottom. I've already discussed this thing with you. the people who are at the top, they have always got more privilege, they have got always got more social status. You know, our society has actually made it like that, right? But it leads to what? It leads to inequality. Why it leads to inequality? Because the stratification is favoring the top layer, it is not favoring the bottom layer. So what it is actually leading, it is leading to inequality, it is leading to your इनइक्वालिटी. और जब इनइक्वालिटी होती है तब तब स्ट्रगल होता है, कॉन्फ्लिक्ट होता है, और वो डेफिनेटली होता है. वी विल अंडरस्टैंड दैट एज वेल. ओके ओके सो I'm just left with 2 minutes. I think I should stop my class right here. Okay, so stop share. We'll understand everything in the further class. Okay, the classes that we'll have in the future. Okay, so kindly text me for understanding what I have tried to tell you. Kindly text me. I want messages from all of you. I really want to know. Tavisha clear, Ayushi clear, Krish clear, Ria clear, and Puneet. Okay. So this is what happens, right? So I've discussed many things with you, and remember that you all have to attend classes on the regular basis, because every day, as I've already told you, I'm telling you new things regarding this subject. So you can't afford to miss things, right? You can't afford to miss your class, because if you'll miss your class, you'll miss many things, right? And everything is interrelated to each other. 11, 12 standard, both are interrelated to each other. I'm teaching 12th standard as well, and there are a lot of things that are coming in the 12th standard, and those things have base in which class? In your 11th class. So everything is structured, everything is interrelated to each other. That's the reason I'm advising you to attend the class on the regular basis. Everyone, Ria, do tell. There is another girl who has actually taken this subject. What's her name? Tell me, text me, Ria, what's her name, if you know. What was her name? Anushika. There is another girl, Anushika. Okay, yes, Anushika. So she's also. So kindly, Ria, tell her as well to attend the classes. Okay, because I'm discussing a lot of things. Okay, so you can't afford to miss things, right? So, okay, sir. So this is what I want to tell you. So I think the time has come to say you goodbye. Until then, take care all. Stay safe, stay at home, and study hard and utilize your time. And bye bye. Take care all. Okay. Bye bye. And Puneet, you have to attend the classes. Okay. Bye bye, everyone.